Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. So what you see here are two of my favorite .22 rifles. These are the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. I've been shooting and testing these rifles for a good solid 2 years now, and thousands and thousands of rounds downrange. I really like these, so it's time for a review. So I'll just introduce the players here for a second. This one on the bottom is a Smith & Wesson MOE version, and so that has all Magpul furniture on there. This is my favorite version of it. This is a really sweet gun. The one on the top is the one that the majority of the testing has happened on. This is just the standard version, the original version that came out, and so this is the one I've had for about 2 years, and the bulk of the testing has happened on this one. This bottom one we've probably had maybe 4 or 5 months. So as we go through this review, we'll just be following those talking points you see there on the side. Just help us stay just a little bit more organized as we go through this. So we'll start off there at the top with uses. Primarily, I see this as kind of a recreational / training rifle. It's a ton of fun to just go plinking with your 1522, and honestly, I've actually kind of benched my Ruger 1022 since I got this rifle. These are just so much fun, and that's really good to go get a lot of, just fun recreational time with a AR-15 type platform. It makes you very familiar with the ergonomics, the feel of an AR, so that when you do, ever transition and start shooting your full-size AR, it feels very familiar. When I picked this up, even though I don't have that many rounds through this gun yet, I've got a lot through that one. So they're really, the muscle memory, the feel is all very comparable, and it transfers over very easily. So that's nice. And also, maybe if you're trying to get somebody like your kid, your girlfriend, your wife, whoever familiar with the AR platform, trying to introduce them to it, maybe starting them off on one of these is a good option. They're just a little bit lighter guns. They're just, a little bit less kick. Now, the 223 doesn't have a lot of kick to it, but a 22 is a really easy way to start somebody off and get them familiar with the, AR platform. Also, it's a lot more cost effective. 22s, they're fairly easy to find, much cheaper. If you go out and shoot a ton of 223, I mean, more power to you, but you're going to spend a lot of money on ammo. So these are a great option. They could also be a decent kind of hiking or backpacking gun, maybe even like a bug out gun, in the sense that they do break down and they're fairly lightweight. They weigh in right around 5.5 pounds naked, so not the lightest gun in the world, but not the heaviest either. So 5.5 pounds is pretty good. Now, if you want to, you can just break this in half if you're gonna stick it in a pack or something. So just pop out your 2 pins, just like a standard AR-15. Just pop those out, and you could break this gun in half just like that. So, when I break it down like this does fit just perfectly right into my Kelty Red Wing, and so I could hike with this just like that if I wanted to. So it's a good option for that. Also, maybe if you just wanted to really deck out a gun for like a competition gun or something, this could also be a good option. Now, moving on to dimensions on here, this is basically a pretty much exact copy of just kind of an M4 pattern rifle. So you'll notice these do have a 16-inch barrel. Now, this MOE version does come threaded for a muzzle device. This just standard original version I got does not. That's just an unthreaded barrel. So the threaded barrel does add just a little bit of length to that overall. But overall, the dimensions are very similar. It takes just standard AR-15 stocks and handguards and sights and everything, so that's all the same. Weighs right around 5.5 pounds. Your handguard on there is fairly narrow. It's not overly thick, so I really like that. This is an all-polymer frame, essentially, so it's a polymer lower, polymer upper, and polymer rail. That's partly what keeps it so light, and I really like that polymer. Now, I have heard some reports, that when people are throwing stuff like bipods up here, if they're really loading that bipod, really putting a lot of pressure on that bipod, they have gotten just a little bit of flex in the frame that's affected accuracy. But that's not really something I've ever experienced. So, maybe if you're really hard using this, an aluminum chassis would have been just a little bit more rigid. But for a little 22 rifle, I haven't really found that to be a big issue. Now, moving on to capacity on here, the standard magazines are a 25 round magazine. I really like these magazines. It's a really good design. They are polymer. They're fairly affordable. I think, you know, 25 bucks. Now this is obviously, you know, before assault weapon ban scare pricing. I'm just talking, you know, generally if you were going to go out and buy one of these, around 25 bucks for one of these magazines. It's a really nice design. Now you'll notice you do have a slit in there that would potentially allow a little bit of dirt and stuff to get in there, maybe cause problems. I haven't had that issue yet, and I really like that design because it does put a tab on there, makes it very easy to just pull this down, makes it very easy to load. It's a good reliable design, and that's important because the magazine really is the heart of the gun, and these are really well made. Also, if you did get dirt in there, it's easy to take apart. You just pull off this base plate and, you know, it wouldn't be an issue. They're not steel reinforced feed lips or anything. I haven't had any issues. It's been really nice. So very easy to load, doesn't take a lot of force, and very reliable. Now this one is a painted magazine. I did spray paint this and do a little bit of a camo job. I think it looks pretty cool. The standard magazines, the normal magazine that comes with it is just going to be this black one or like that, and this tan MOE version does come with a tan magazine, so that's a nice attention to detail that Smith & Wesson did, and it just, you know, the attention to detail is really something that shows with this design. It's a really well designed, squared away gun by Smith & Wesson. So we're going to go on to ergonomics here. The ergonomics are basically typical of a AR-15 platform. You know, so grips and everything can be swapped out. Now the standard version does come with just a kind of standard military spec grip on there. I did swap that out for this MOE version. I really like the feel of the MOE grips a lot better. The stocks and everything are pretty standard, you know, for just a mil-spec rifle. Another reason that I really prefer the MOE version is that you have a built-in QD mount right here. So they've actually just molded into your lower receiver here a QD mount on both sides. So it makes it very easy to just, you know, install a single point sling onto here. And I really do recommend the single point sling for this gun. It's light enough that you really don't need a 2-point sling, and it really makes it light, you know, nice and light and handy. Now if you go with the version that doesn't have that, it's, you know, not a big problem. You'll see on here I do have a clamp on option. This I actually got from Botash Tactical for I think 20 bucks. It's KZ branded. So, you know, you don't have a standard end plate that you can replace on here like a full-size AR, but, you know, a clamp on option like this will work. It's aluminum, it's super lightweight, doesn't add much to it, and it's fairly affordable. And also, if you do want to run a 2-point sling, you can do that fairly easily. I just looped a piece of paracord through the front rail there, and so that's super simple. So it's an easy platform to configure, but that MOE version does add just a little bit extra functionality. The sights on here that I'm running, this one comes with the flip-up MBUS sights, so that's nice. These are fairly decent sights, especially for a 22, and so just standard iron sights. Now you do have a rail up there on top, so you could run any optic you wanted, your favorite choice of scope, red dot, whatever you want to throw on here. You could do that pretty easily. So, you know, sighting systems are very easy for the AR-15. Now, the top one here, this came with this style sight. So these aren't flip down, but they're a very rugged, very reliable aluminum sight. So these, you can see they just go on with this thumb screw. There's your front post. It does take just standard AR-15 sights. If you wanted to throw in a more precise pin in there, you could. Then on the back here is a very well designed, very robust sight. So this is both adjustable for elevation and windage. So that's really nice. So both are good. Now you'll notice I've been running both of these with just iron sights. And I like it better that way. It keeps the guns nice and light, easy to carry around, easy to run, and it gets you good practice with your irons. You know, red dots and everything are great, but ultimately your fallback, your safe bet is going to be your irons. So I like to be good with those, well versed with my iron sights. That's just me. Now, moving on to accuracy on here, they're not really a gun that I envision, sitting down and bench resting and really trying to squeeze the most accuracy out of. They're training plinking rifles. So I have shot from paper targets in the past. I don't have those. I lost them. Overall, my take on it is they're pretty much practical, as accurate as you need them to be. They're on par with all the other, semi-auto 22 rifles out there, and they're accurate enough. You know, I'd probably say maybe, you know, with just bulk pack ammo, and that's all that I ever put through these, maybe 2 to 2.5 inches at 100 yards is probably what you could, you know, easily expect out of these. If you really spent a lot of time and scoped it and everything, I don't know, you could probably do a little bit better than that. So, you know, they're plenty accurate. You know, that's enough on that. I mostly shoot steel targets with these, and they've always been good enough for that. Now, as far as reliability on here, they're obviously 22, so it's not something you'd really want to use as a defensive arm. It's not a ultra reliable, you know, firearm just because of the cartridge. But for a 22, they're fairly reliable. And, you know, I'm somebody that's notorious for not cleaning my firearms, you know, every time I use them. I do let these get kind of gunked up and, you know, just keep running them. And they do fine. You know, I do just put a little bit of lubrication on the bolt. You know, maybe every, I don't know, 500,000 rounds, it'll maybe start having a bobble here or there. So just, you know, just pull it out, wipe the bolt down. It's fairly easy to maintain. So, as you can tell, you just, you know, put your bolt down, easy enough. Just pull that rear pin out, pull your bolt carrier group out. Very easy to do. You can see this one is dirty. So just keep it lubed and you should be good. You know, every once in a while you'll get a issue, but I just feed these standard bulk cheap ammo of, you know, any variety I can find. And they do great with it. Full, you know, fully round bullets, hollow points, whatever you want to put in there, they'll eat it up. And they really hit that primer very hard. If you look at some of the primers, you'll notice that they really smash the primer, so that's nice. Now, this top one was one of the original 1522s that came out, and the bolt actually did have an issue on the very original design. It actually would throw the extractor out, and it actually chucked it across the range. I had to go pick it up and find it. So that was a little bit of an issue they had with the, you know, very initial ones that came out. Now, luckily, Smith & Wesson has excellent customer service. We sent it back to them. I believe they even paid for return shipping, and they swapped it out free of charge, took care of us. And Smith & Wesson really does a good job. You know, if you ever have any issues, they'll take care of you. They're a quality manufacturer that stands behind their products. So, you know, I wouldn't have any hesitations, you know, going for a Smith & Wesson product after dealing with them. Now, as far as maintenance goes on here, and I just showed you, you just pull the bolt out, clean your barrel, you know, fairly standard stuff. So, you know, nothing, you know, revolutionary or different about that. Just take care of them, you know, with basic gun maintenance. Now, as far as accessories for these, it's an AR-15 platform. You know, stocks, grips, anything you want. The triggers on here, the stock trigger that comes in here, is actually fairly decent. Now, it's nothing, you know, special, but it's a little bit better than what I would say the standard, just kind of rack grade military spec trigger is. They're fairly decent. They're not overly light, but they are pretty crisp, so I like them. And, you know, just running a mil spec trigger in my full-size AR, I don't feel the need to put anything special in here. If you were wanting to really, you know, trick one of these out, make it really sweet, it does just take standard AR-15 triggers. So, you know, pick your favorite flavor of a custom trigger, you know, Timney, Geisel, Chip McCormick, whatever you want to throw in there, it'll take it. So, you know, pretty standard accessories on here. Ambi safety, you could throw that on there. Now, obviously, your charging handle is a proprietary design because your bolt's a shorter motion there. And these are just standard blowback guns, which also, you know, again, gets to the reliability. Now, this one, again, like I said, is threaded, so you could throw a compensator or whatever you want on there. Doesn't really need it, but if you like the look, you could do that. So I would go for one of the threaded versions, you know, if I could. Again, I just bought this one before they even, you know, had a threaded option, and it's been good enough. You don't really need flash suppression for a 22 plinker, but it's just cool. So, you know, pretty much whatever you want for it. You'll notice I am running the Deal Extreme AFGs on here, so around 12 bucks. Check out my video on these. Really cool accessories, very affordable, high quality. I really like it. Now, one thing I will mention as far as accessories goes on these rifles is that the magazines on here, while they are a good 25 round magazine, they're not exact pattern of a full-size AR. So here's a Magpul PMag Gen 3. So you compare these, it is just a little bit taller, similar thickness, but it's just a little bit narrower, a little bit taller. So if you're running, like Kydex pouches, or something that's really form-fitted for this, these aren't going to work in there. So all the other pouches, nylon pouches, maybe HSGI tacos, whatever, these will run just fine. But if you're running a fitted, molded pouch for this, you're probably going to have a little bit of trouble, running these in there. Just a heads up. Now, as far as pricing goes on here, again, not Assault Weapons band scare prices, general everyday prices, new. These ones, the MOE versions, are probably going to go around $550. And then this just more standard plain version, it's going to go maybe around $450. So they're not the cheapest 22s out there, but I think they're definitely worth it, especially when you think about the amount of money you're saving in 223. Now, there are some other good competitive options out there. Obviously, you could always just go with like a 1022, and just try to deck that out. But even, as much as there are some really cool 1022s out there, very sweet 1022s, they're not going to have the same ergonomics as an AR-15. Now maybe if you're running a Mini 14 or a AK-47, something like that, maybe the 1022 would be a little bit more along the guidelines of those ergonomics. So, a 1022 is a good option, especially now that there's the BX-25 magazine. They really can kind of maybe compete a little bit better here. A lot of the standard just kind of bargain 22 rifles, plinking rifles, aren't going to have the magazine capacity. That's really going to be one of your biggest limits on there. Now there's also some different conversions out there, like 22 conversions for your full-size AR. That's a good option. It is a little bit cheaper than this, but you're going to run into optics issues. You're not going to be able to run the same optic because you're going to have a different zero when you convert it over. So there's different things to consider. There's uppers that are 22 upper that will fit on your full-size AR. That's another cool option, but a lot of times for the price, you could just get one of these. They're very similarly priced to this whole gun. So for me, I'd just rather have another gun. That's just my take on it. So overall, I really like the 1522. It's one of the best 22 rifles that I've ever shot and owned. And honestly, that's just witnessed by, it's what I shoot the most. I have several 22 rifles. I have access to a lot of stuff, but when it really comes down to it, when you go out to the range, this is what I'm shooting the most. I love the 1522. It's reliable, it's lightweight, it's a great turner for the AR. So if you have any questions about these 1522s, feel free to leave that in the comments. I'd be happy to help you guys out with these. And everyone, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you liked what you saw. And everyone have a nice day.